November 14th, 2:47 a.m. The National Grid Control Center on the outskirts of a sprawling capital city. Rain hammers against reinforced windows as rows of monitors flicker in the dark, casting pale blue light across empty corridors. At 2:47 in the morning, the first alarm does not sound like an alarm at all. It is a single amber light blinking on a panel nobody is watching closely enough. Within 90 seconds, 17 more lights join it, spreading across the grid map like a slow infection. The night shift operator, a heavyset man with decades of muscle memory in his hands, freezes for exactly 4 seconds before his training takes over. He reaches for the emergency line, but the line is already dead. Not disconnected, dead the way a nerve dies when the blood stops reaching it. Somewhere beneath the surface of the country's power infrastructure, something has been moving for weeks, quietly, patiently, waiting for this exact hour, this exact storm, this exact moment of minimum staffing and maximum darkness. For years, engineers had spoken of the grid's redundancies with something close to pride. Layered defenses built on top of layered defenses. Backup systems designed to catch failures no single point could ever cause alone. Nobody had ever seriously modeled what would happen if the failure came not from equipment fatigue or storm damage, but from something patient enough to learn every one of those redundancies first, and confident enough to route around each of them in sequence, like a hand slowly closing around a throat. By 3:02 a.m., 3 regional substations have gone dark. By 3:15, the outage has swallowed 2 million homes. Streetlights die in sequence, block by block, like a wave rolling backward through the city. Hospitals switch to generators with a shudder that engineers will later describe as the building holding its breath. In apartment towers, families wake to silence where the hum of refrigerators and routers used to be. Nobody yet understands that this is not a storm-related failure. Nobody yet understands that somewhere, on servers scattered across 4 continents, a small and disciplined team has been rehearsing this exact sequence for months, testing it in simulated environments that mirrored the real grid down to the firmware version of individual relay switches. In one of those apartment towers, a nurse preparing for the early shift stands frozen by her kitchen window, watching the darkness spread outward from somewhere near the river, counting seconds the way she counts a patient's pulse, waiting for the lights to return the way a heartbeat is expected to return. They do not. 3 floors below her, an elderly man taps at his unresponsive medical alert device, unaware that the silence in his apartment is not a local fault, but the leading edge of something far larger moving through the city like weather. The investigation begins before dawn, in a converted government building where fluorescent lights buzz over rows of exhausted analysts summoned from their beds. The lead investigator, a woman known in intelligence circles for her unnerving calm under pressure, arrives still wearing yesterday's blazer, her tablet already open to a wall of crashing logs. She does not raise her voice. She does not need to. Her presence alone seems to slow the panic in the room, even as the numbers on the screen behind her keep climbing. Within the first hour, her team isolates a pattern buried inside the chaos. The malware did not simply flood the system. It studied it first, learning the rhythm of routine maintenance checks so it could disguise itself as one of them. This was not vandalism. This was architecture. One of her senior analysts, a man who had spent 11 years hunting intrusions for a living, later admits privately that something about the code unsettled him in a way he struggled to name. It was not the sophistication alone. Sophisticated attacks were nothing new. It was the restraint, the deliberate avoidance of anything that might draw attention too early. The sense that whoever had written it had studied not just the grid's architecture, but the psychological rhythm of the people who defended it, learning exactly how long a team could work before exhaustion made them careless, and choosing that exact hour to strike. By sunrise, the outage has expanded to include water treatment facilities in 2 neighboring districts, their pumps stalling mid-cycle, pressure gauges frozen at dangerous levels. Engineers wade through server rooms with flashlights, disconnecting systems by hand because remote access itself has become a liability. Every command sent through the network risks waking something else hidden in the code, something that appears to reroute and rebuild itself the moment a countermeasure is deployed. The investigators' team begins to suspect they are not fighting a single piece of malware, but an entire toolkit, modular and self-repairing, built by people who understood not just computer networks, but the particular psychology of the engineers who would eventually come looking for them. At the Ministry of Infrastructure, a junior minister paces a conference room lit only by the gray light of morning through rain-streaked windows. He has been awake for 19 hours. Reports arrive faster than anyone can read them. Transportation signals failing in the financial district. A regional airport grounding flights after its radar systems flicker and die for 6 agonizing minutes. Banks freezing transactions as a precaution before anyone confirms whether the financial network itself has been compromised. Nobody dies in these first hours, and this fact is repeated so often in briefings that it starts to sound less like relief and more like a countdown clock nobody wants to acknowledge. The minister, standing at the window with a cooling cup of coffee he has forgotten to drink, finds himself thinking not of statistics, but of a single detail buried in an early report. The attackers, whoever they were, had timed the first strike almost exactly with the passage of a storm system that would have masked unusual activity as ordinary weather-related disruption for at least the first hour. It was, he realizes with a slow chill, not luck. It was another layer of the plan, one more variable accounted for in advance. By midday, the investigators' team traces the earliest intrusion point to a maintenance contractor's laptop, infected 3 months earlier through what looks like an ordinary phishing email. So unremarkable that the contractor cannot even recall opening it. From that single laptop, the intrusion spread laterally for weeks, mapping the grid's architecture in silence, waiting. The forensic trail leads through a chain of compromised servers so long and so carefully obscured that even seasoned analysts admit quietly that they have never seen infrastructure this patient. Somewhere in that chain, hidden behind layers of rented servers and stolen credentials, sits whoever built this. The team narrows the signature down to a small, highly disciplined group, one that leaves almost no fingerprints except a kind of dark elegance in the code itself, an architecture that seems to take a strange pride in its own precision. Later, reconstructing the contractor's final weeks of ordinary work, analysts find nothing unusual at all. No late-night logins, no suspicious file transfers, nothing that would have raised a flag in even the most rigorous audit. This, more than anything else, is what convinces the investigator that they are dealing with people who had done this before, perhaps many times in systems far less visible than a national power grid, quietly refining a method that depended entirely on looking like nothing was happening at all. By late afternoon, emergency crews have restored power to roughly 60% of the affected grid, working substation by substation with hand tools where automated systems can no longer be trusted. In the control center, the operator who first saw the amber light now sits at a manual override station, running the grid the way it was run decades before automation, watching dials instead of screens. He does not speak much. When a young technician asks him if he is afraid, he only says that fear is for people who still believe the lights will simply come back on their own. The technician, watching him work through the evening without complaint or hesitation, finds himself thinking that there is something almost old-fashioned in the older man's steadiness, a kind of competence built not from software updates or new certifications, but from 30 years of hands that had learned, slowly and without fanfare, exactly what a failing grid felt like before it failed. As the sun sets on the second day, the investigator stands alone in front of the wall of monitors. The malware's dormant code finally isolated and quarantined, though nobody in the room believes it is truly finished. She stares at the last line of decrypted comment text left behind in the code, a short phrase inserted seemingly for no operational reason at all. A signature of sorts, cold and deliberate, left by whoever built this as if daring someone to find it. Outside, the city's lights begin flickering back to life, block by block, the same slow wave now moving forward instead of backward. But in the control room, nobody celebrates. They simply watch the map, waiting to see if the lights will hold, and knowing, in the quiet way people know things they cannot yet prove, that whoever did this has already moved on to studying the next target. Weeks later, the investigator will still return, almost involuntarily, to that single line of text, turning it over, the way one turns over a stone looking for what might be crawling underneath. It will never fully leave her, not because of what it said, but because of what it implied, that somewhere out there, patient and unhurried, a mind capable of building something this precise was already